Hello everybody, John12 back here again with another video, and I'm here to give you my official review for Arrow Season 4, Episode 8, titled Legends of Yesterday. Now, of course, if you haven't seen this episode, please check it out because this review may contain spoilers. But that being said, let's get into this Arrow Flash crossover episode. Now, before I get into my initial review, I want to make it perfectly clear, if you hear any very loud rendering noises in the background, that's mostly due to the fact that I'm in hurricane season right now, and it's freaking blowing. Well, it's not technically, I don't know, hurricane season, it's like, when you live where I live, it's like practically night and day, but whatever. It's raining like crazy outside of where I'm recording, so if you hear anything that's very loud and annoying, it's mostly because there's rainfall. It was raining all day today as I was doing my BVS trailer review and my Flash crossover episode review, which I did previously. If you haven't checked it out, please go to my channel and check out those reviews. I highly appreciate that. But that being said, let's try and, bridge this whole thing and just finish this off with the second part of the Arrow Flash crossovers. Now, if there is something that has to be said about this second part of the crossover episodes versus the Flash, this was the better version. I personally really liked part 1, the Flash episode. I really enjoyed it, and for me personally, the Flash is a superior show to Arrow. That's just my personal subjective opinion. I know there's some people who are like hardcore Arrow fans who will obviously deny that. However, for me, Flash is a better show. But when it came down to these crossover episodes, the best part of the Flash episode was the Arrow stuff, and ironically enough, the best part of this episode is the fact that it's an Arrow episode. It's so freaking awesome, it's badass, it's very comic booky. I like the fact that this episode focused on a lot of very different subplots, but definitely kept it as one linear story, in comparison to the Flash, where that episode had a whole bunch of conflicting subplots that didn't really gel together. Like, you had the Hawkgirl Hawkman stuff, you had the Vandal Savage stuff, you had the Flash and Arrow team up, then you have the freaking Harrison Wells, Jay Garrick, Caitlin Snow stuff. It didn't really gel. This time you have a whole bunch of different stuff and a lot more freaking characters, but it all gelled. And plus we have a lot more perspective on Vandal Savage and why he's out to get Kendra and Carter. And of course, Carter Hall has come, and he's a part of the team. He's a much bigger part in this episode in comparison to last episode, where obviously he was more or less like, he just swooped in, took Kendra, showed her that, he is Hawkman and that she's Hawkgirl and they're meant to be together, and then he did his little bout with, Flash and Arrow, which was pretty cool. It wasn't the best fight. I would have liked it if they went all out with that fight, but overall I get it. You're dealing with two characters that have special effects, one character who doesn't, and, one of them has wings and a fucking mace, so I can understand why they would want to limit the way they do their fighting, but I wish it could have been a little bit more awesomer. But that being said, Oliver, Barry, the rest of Team Arrow and Flash decide that they need to hide Kendra and Carter in a different remote location to hopefully come up with a game plan to take down Vandal Savage, who is now ultimately super uber fucking powerful because some idiot thought it was okay to let him go. Wink wink the Flash, you fucking moron. And I'm sorry I had to get all brutal there, but I'm just saying, you could have ended this right from the beginning. But no, you just had to wait. And now he has a staff that pretty much can destroy and level cities. Yet, you needed Arrow's help because of, ratings. That's pretty much all I can really say on that. But overall, I think the best thing about this episode is the fact that it had a lot of conflicting storylines that really gelled together. You have Vandal Savage with his new weapon of mass destruction that's going to destroy all of Central City. He wants Kendra and Carter. Kendra is trying to figure out her powers, trying to understand how they work. Carter is being an asshole. Cisco has no idea. He feels incompetent. He doesn't know what he's doing. On the flip side, you have all of other Team Arrow trying to do, practically something because they're completely irrelevant, especially Diggle, Thea, and Laurel. I mean, come on. You could pretty much blink and they were practically not in this episode, but regardless of any of that, it was still kind of nice just to have him be there. I think the brilliant part about having Thea, Diggle, and Laurel as background characters is that they really flourish as background characters. When you're consistently seeing them do stuff and have dialogue that doesn't really work for them on regular Arrow episodes, it really doesn't work. But I think it worked in this episode. I mean, how even Thea, who is, at least in my personal subjective opinion, my least favorite character in all of the Arrowverse, she was actually pretty good in this episode. And hell, she was even good in the last episode of Flash. She was really good. I think that has a lot to do with the fact that she was really just a background character. She flourishes as a background character. And I think that's where Arrow and Flash get it right, when you have characters that you really want to groundbreak, or at least do some kind of groundbreaking, storytelling with those characters. You do it in the background, so it doesn't like hinder the main storyline of these characters taking on their respected supervillains. So I think it worked out for them. So Thea, Diggle, and Laurel may not be my favorite characters in the entire Arrowverse, but I think they worked out as background characters for the most part of this episode. But with that all being said and done, the creme de la creme of all storylines that came down subplot wise for this episode has to be the subplot rather of Oliver figuring out that he has a son. Yes, referenced in the ending of the last crossover episode, The Flash, essentially Oliver finds out that he has a son out there, and we obviously have known this for a while. If you're a hardcore Arrow fan, then you probably know this already. It was referenced in Season 2, if I'm not mistaken, I think around the finale, where one of his old girlfriends essentially was pregnant. Maura Queen, back when she was still fucking alive, pretty much stated that she didn't want her to be around her son. She felt that this, illegitimate child would like ruin the family or the family business or whatever the fuck she was thinking. I don't know. Maura Queen was a wacky character, so who the fuck knows what she was really thinking. But at the end of the day, she left. And we never saw or heard from those characters again until I think it was last season of Arrow where they did the crossover, and we got to see that character again meet up with Oliver for like a quick second, and that was pretty much it. And it referenced that Oliver could possibly have a son who's still alive, or a child, if you will. And I really like that, because in the comic books, Oliver does have a son. Of course, it's, they changed the names, if you will, and they kind of changed the origins, if you will, of how this kid becomes, the son of the Green Arrow. However, I think it worked for the CW verse. I think it was alright, and I personally felt like the entire storyline of Oliver trying to figure out if that's really his son, trying to keep it away from Felicity, trying to, try and become a part of this kid's life, figuring out whether or not it's something that he needs or wants to do, how it blows up in his face when Felicity finds out, how this alternate universe becomes a thing. Like, it's so crazy and wacky. I think it was the best part of this episode. I mean, granted, there's a lot of other really cool, crazy stuff. You have the League of Shadows, League of Assassins, if you will. I'm sorry, the Dark Knight Rises is stuck in my head. League of Assassins, Malcolm Merlyn comes freaking back, which I kind of like whatever about. I'm just saying, like, I love the character of Malcolm Merlyn, and I love John Barrowman. He's an amazing actor, an amazing person, to add that. But ever since he became Ra's al Ghul, I've had this very quiet hatred for the character. So every time he's on screen in this episode, I just really, really don't like him. And on top of that, after witnessing the ending of the episode, it kind of makes you realize how Malcolm needs to die already. Or at least, like, I'm just saying, like, if there is something that needs to happen before the ultimate finale of the series, Oliver and Malcolm have to have one big last boss battle, and Oliver has to defeat Malcolm. I feel like that's like a perfect way to end this entire series, but that needs to happen because I'm getting sick of Malcolm's shit. Like, I don't even care if he's like a subplotted fucking character, as he is in the majority of like last season and this season, but I'm just saying, and especially this season, I'm just saying, he needs to get the shit kicked out of him for being so fucking wacky. I'm just saying, I'm sick of your shit. You're not Ra's al Ghul. You're a fucking liar. You don't deserve that title. I don't even know why you're still on this show. Fuck you. That's all I can really... And you gave us Thea. It's fucking despicable. But that's an entirely different kind of topic video for another hatred kind of day. But that being done, obviously, let's get into the creme de la creme of all comic book references, the Avengers. Ironically enough, I think I stated this in prior reviews of Arrow and the Flash, and that was... It's so ironically hilarious how the CW universe is trying to make itself so different from the movie verse. It's almost like it's almost more like Marvel than it is DC. Now, I'm not saying that's a bad thing, nor am I trying to enrage the hardcore DC fanboys to be like, no, fuck Marvel, whatever. It is kind of true. I mean, like, when you look at the Flash, it's not like Barry, it's not the true Flash. I mean, there's a lot of really cool, epic Flash-isms from the mythology and the canon put into the show, but it's more like a Spider-Man show that just happens to be the Flash. On Arrow, it's kind of the same thing, except nowadays they kind of changed it, so it's a lot more wackier in comparison to what it really was in Season 1 and Season 2. But when you look at this episode, it felt less like a crossover you would expect from a DC movie. It's more like, and granted, we don't know that. I mean, there's still Batman v Superman to see whether or not that's a success, which I hope it is. Granted, the last trailer we got really polarized the internet, but I'm still a believer, if you will. But at the same time, it's like, there's so much Marvel-isms in this specific episode alone. It's hilarious. I mean, for one, a farm? Really? Who the fuck even owned that farm? I want to know that. That's a really interesting, good question I really want to put out there that I hope someone answers in the comment section below, because it was something that really bothered me. It's like, who the hell owns that farm? Like, is it Oliver's? Is it Felicity's? Did they just fucking buy that farm right out of the gate? Or was that farm referenced in the previous season? Because I don't remember it, so I don't know. I felt like the sole purpose Greg Berlanti, or who the fuck wrote this episode, decided, like, we need to do this for the sole purpose of having an Avengers Age of Ultron reference. And they do that, actually. Like, there's spoilers, but there's like a moment where when they get out of the cars, when they arrive at the farm, Thea, like, Oliver gets out of the car, Thea, like, follows, and then she says, superheroes at a farm. I could have sworn I saw that in a movie once. It's like, really? Really? Are you trying to fuck me that hard in the ass here, fucking bitch? I'm just saying. I get it. It's super ironic, and I've seen it before. But was that the sole purpose as to why you did it? Just so you can have that one payoff? Which happens really early in the episode? Man, I don't know who the fuck paid off to fucking do that kind of a Easter egg reference in the script. But can we get the money back or, like, fire the guy? Because that was really wacky and stupid. And on top of all that, you have a whole bunch of other wacky Avengers references, let alone the Loki pokey stick. I mean, granted, The Avengers was awesome. It was an amazing movie. It's probably one of the greatest comic book movies of all time. Not just, it's an objective opinion. It's not really subjective. It's, it's a legit thing. But at the same time, like, did you really have to take Loki's pokey stick from the Avengers and put it into the fucking crossover episode of Arrow? I mean, like, Vandal Savage gets a staff. Like some kind of ancient Egyptian staff that gives him this ultimate power, and he uses it to destroy all of Central City. Like, who the fuck? Like, really? You came up with this plan to give him that much power? It was really wacky. It's a very interesting topic of debate as to why they did these kind of things. I feel like they did it just for the sole purpose of pleasing, like, really hardcore, like, TV audiences. But at the same time, coming from a comic book guy, it's like, why'd you have to rip off Marvel so much? It's hilarious. It's really, really hilarious. And if you want to deny it, that's cool, but it's right there. I mean, like, a farm, Age of Ultron, stick, staff, fucking Avengers. It's like, it's right there, clear as day. So I don't know why they had to do that. I get it. They like, when it comes to the CW universes, they want to be very meta and very obvious with how they, product placement, place, all over their episodes, but at the same time, it just, I don't know, I don't think it really worked, and I really wish they could have done something different that was a little bit more original, but what are you going to do? It is what it is, but at the same time, it's still a solid episode. I really enjoyed it. If there's another thing I really didn't like is the performances of Hawkgirl and Hawkman. I stated this in my Flash review, that I wasn't big on Ciara Renee's performance as Hawkgirl, and after seeing the second episode, I'm still not I'm still not pleased with her performance. I think she's not that great. I haven't seen her prior work, so this is the only thing I'm judging her on. But based off what I've seen so far, I'm not really sold on her as Hawkgirl, and also I'm not really big on her as an actress as is. I mean, granted, that's saying a lot from, and poking a little too far at CW of all things, but at the same time, like, I think there was a lot written on the page that she just did not evoke as an actress. That's kind of like the best way I can do it. And the guy who plays Hawkman, jeez, I don't want to bash the dude, but it's like he was doing the worst, at least in my opinion. If you differ with me, there's nothing wrong with that, but in my subjective opinion, the actor who plays Hawkman, or Carter Hall, if you will, throughout this episode, and even last episode, was so hammy, and he felt like it felt like he was doing the most obvious and terrible Chris Hemsworth Thor impression of all time. Like, he was so obvious as like a Thor ripoff, it's not even funny. And I'm not saying that Hawkman is a Thor ripoff. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying the actor's performance as Hawkman was a Thor ripoff. He felt like a man out of time, out of the world, alien kind of thing, but he's kind of obvious that he knows he's kind of an alien to a certain extent, and he's this super powerful white guy, who gets this super hot chick or whatever. He flies, he has like a magical medieval weapon. Like, it's a little similar, but at the same time, did you really have to make it so obviously similar in your performance, dude? I don't think so. So, at the end of the day, performances-wise, everyone was great, except for the actors who portray Hawkman and Hawkgirl. And that's really a bad thing, because they're main characters for Legends of Tomorrow. And after seeing their performances in these two crossover episodes, I have zero hope in Legends of Tomorrow, because their main focus isn't there. At this point in time, the only thing that's really selling me on Legends of Tomorrow is Brandon Routh. That's the only thing that really sells me, because everything else is like, they fucked up Black Canary. Now she's the White Canary doing some other wacko military shit. Who the fuck knows? Captain Cold and Heatwave are in this. I don't know why. Rip Hunter is Rip Hunter. And you have freaking Hawkman and Hawkgirl who suck. And you have I was about to say Human Torch, but Firestorm, who looks cool. But, what can they really do on this show? Like, I know they're going to do a lot, but what are they really going to do? Because they haven't really done anything really truly amazing with Firestorm so far in this series, so I really don't know where to go with it. So, on the Legends of Tomorrow front, I have zero hope. I'm still going to check it out, obviously, but I don't really have that much anticipation, and it kind of was killed mostly due to these two actors' performances as Hawkman and Hawkgirl. I don't think, when I see them and their performances on screen, I don't see Hawkman and Hawkgirl. I don't see a good performance. I don't see a good portrayal. The costumes and the effects look nice, but that can take you so far. And you need, at the base of all these CGI effects and costumes, is good performances from your actors. And if you can't get that, then you just have a shallow shell of a fucking character. And that's what Hawkman and Hawkgirl are. That's just my personal subjective opinion. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of wacky shit that happens in the episode. Vandal Savage destroys Central City. Flash goes back in time via Speed Force, which of course we've seen previously in Season 1. Very cool stuff. They relive the entire thing. So the entire continuity gets changed once again, which is hilarious. I'm just saying, DC is notorious for changing continuities. And freaking right before all this happens, Oliver, I guess, and Felicity's relationship is kaput, and Oliver dies, and everybody else dies, and the entire Central City gets destroyed. So, yeah, I guess it's a good thing that Barry did go back in time, but man, would have been awesome if he didn't, and that was like the sole basis of Legends of Tomorrow. God, that would have been really bitchin'. Imagine if that was the real timeline. Oh my god, that would be freaking amazing. But overall, you can't have that. You can't have it in this universe. You have to have a time travel, a moment, so it changes everything, which does happen. And of course, they find some kind of bogus way to team up as one, everyone together. Team Arrow, Team Flash, Hawkman, Hawkgirl, everybody. full-on assault against Vandal Savage. Vandal Savage is defeated. He's destroyed, literally. And that's pretty much the end of the episode. Malcolm Merlyn comes in, steals his ashes, says some bogus-ass line that's super cheesy. And that's pretty much the end of the crossover episodes. And even though I kind of make it sound like I'm hating on the episode after the last few minutes, it was actually a pretty good episode. And I actually think it's better than the Flash one, which is saying a lot. So, on that front, all I can really say is I'm going to give this episode a solid 8 out of 10. The effects were great, the acting and performances were great, with the exception of a few. I think Casper Crump really upped up his game as Vandal Savage versus the previous episode. I think once again, the effects, the magnitude of the event was really great. I think the alternate universe where Vandal Savage destroys everything was really cool. I like the argument that Oliver and Felicity have, the whole Oliver finding out he has a son storyline I like. I'm pretty sure we will, continue this story. And once again, now that we have more, context, now my whole game and speculation has changed, because who's in the grave? Who's in the grave? No one was at that specific grave except for Oliver and Barry. Oliver is not going to tell Felicity about the child. What if the child actually is the one in the grave? This just came to me, people. My mind is blown. I really don't know. I still feel like Felicity is the one who's going to die, especially after witnessing this episode. I'm just saying, foreshadowing like a motherfucker. They break up, then the world ends. Inevitable, man. Shit's gonna happen. Shit is going down. So, she's still my number one pick. But now that you introduce the kid, and the fact that Felicity doesn't know about it, well, in fact, all of Team Arrow doesn't know about it, and now that Oliver's having another secret behind their backs that will obviously destroy everything, could that kid be in the grave? I'm just saying, shit is going to be going down. Shit will be going down. I can't wait to see what it continues going on in this overall season. This was the best episode so far. I think this was legitimately, and no bullshitting, the best episode of Arrow Season 4 thus far. Every episode was decent and definitely okay. Some were obviously terrible, but overall this was the best one so far, and I really enjoyed the hell out of it. I think it was better than even the Flash one, which is obviously saying a whole lot. But that being said, comment below. Let me know what you personally thought about the Arrow and Flash crossovers. What did you think about the Flash episode, the Arrow episode? Let me know your personal speculations and thoughts about who is in the grave, the future of Oliver's son, the future of Olicity, if you will. And of course, what other kind of characters would you like to see introduced in the next crossovers, which we will eventually be getting. I mean, I'm just saying, CW's been getting them ratings. Of course, they're going to do more crossover episodes, and shit will be going down. And Vandal Savage will return. He will be coming back, of course, for Legends of Tomorrow. I don't know how that's going to happen. It's really up in the air as to whether or not he's going to reincarnate, or this is just time traveling kind of thing, and it's more or less like a past Vandal Savage. I don't really know which way they're going to go with it in Legends of Tomorrow, but we will find out, and that's very interesting. So, overall, let me know your theories, speculations, personal thoughts in the comment section below. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram, @Josh12. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already, and I hope you guys enjoyed, and this has been Josh12.